Hi, I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks so much for joining me today at Courageous Journeys. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the holidays and the difficulty that so many people have during this time of year. Let's face it, this is not the happiest time of year for everybody. And so if that's the case for you, I'm talking to you. Part of the reason that it's so difficult is everywhere you are so bombarded with images and messages that you are supposed to be happy and that you're supposed to be happy because you should be looking forward to spending time with friends and family, and it's all about being together and being joyous. And like I said, that's not the case for many people. But when you have those messages over and over and over again, it really reinforces the idea that somehow you're different than everybody else because everybody else is happy. And if you are not, then, well, there must be something wrong with you. So that's a big part of why it tends to be difficult for people. Within that, it also can really trigger a sense of loss because for people who grow up in dysfunctional families, or just don't have close connections to their family, when you're hearing all these messages, it reminds you that you don't have that. And that, of course, can be really difficult. Not only does it set you apart from other people, but it's just a reminder that you don't have those close family or friend connections. And part of healing in general from abuse or dysfunctional families is grieving that loss. You literally have to go through a grief process when you're healing your family dysfunction. You have to go through a process of the, the anger, the hurt, the frustration, accepting that that's not part of your life, and acceptance and finding new people to spend your time and energy with. But loss can be a really important part this time of year. So, one of the best ways to navigate and get through this time of year is by taking care of yourself. Now, I know that that can seem really oversimplistic and just not really make a lot of sense, but I assure you that it really is one of the most helpful and important ways to help you get through this time of year. So when I say take care of yourself, that means a lot of different things. It can be anything from getting enough sleep, feeding yourself when you're hungry, even going to the bathroom when you need to go instead of getting caught up in all the busyness. It can certainly be doing nice things for yourself, taking a hot bath, going and getting a massage, um, spending time with people, and setting boundaries, um, which I'll talk about in a second. But when you take care of yourself, not only does it feel good and you feel better, but more importantly, when you take care of yourself, you help replace an idea of unworthiness with the belief and the reality that you are worthy. Every time you take care of yourself, take care of a need, a desire, a want, you reinforce the idea that you are worthy of being taken care of, that you're deserving of those things. You know, for people who have an abuse history, one of the most common themes is believing that you're unworthy and undeserving. And part of healing, or the biggest part of healing, really is undoing the beliefs that you have that were created as a result of the abuse and the dysfunction, and replacing them with the reality of your life and who you are. So when you take care of yourself, each time that you do that, especially if you're acknowledging that you're taking care of yourself, you begin to reinforce that idea that you are worthy of being taken care of. And you are. Yes, even you. You're worthy of being taken care of. You deserve to be taken care of. So when you're doing that, you're replacing that old belief of being unworthy. So that's really the biggest reason that it's important. But anytime that you're stressed, down, struggling, you need to take care of yourself. If you can during this time of year, no matter who it is, maybe it's your therapist, maybe it's a friend or a coworker, it'd be great if it's a family member, whoever it may be, making sure that you're not isolating yourself is a really important self-care tip for this time of year. I know it's not easy to reach out. It's easy to tell yourself everybody's busy, they don't have time, they have friends and family to spend their time with instead. You are worthy of connection. And because everybody thinks everybody else is really busy this time of year, there's a good chance that people may not be reaching out to you to spend time with you. So you may need to make that effort and do that on your own. Isolating yourself this time of year is just going to make it worse and reinforce an idea that you're not worthy of that connection. So self-care and don't isolate. The other thing that I mentioned just briefly about a way to take care of yourself is setting boundaries. And, I know that it's not feasible for everybody to say, no, I'm just not going to spend time around people who I don't like or who don't make me or who make me uncomfortable, who are inappropriate. Sometimes that's just not feasible to do that. So what you can do is recognize what your boundaries are and then set limits around them. And I know that for many of you, you're really not sure what those boundaries are for you. It's one of the difficulties that people struggle with who've been abused because, of course, your boundaries were completely violated when you were abused. And so you learn that it's not okay for you to have boundaries. Um, but one way to recognize, at least in the beginning, what some of your boundaries may be is reflecting on how you feel when you spend time around certain people. Maybe reflect on previous holiday seasons and identify the things that felt comfortable to you, felt good to you, felt nurturing and supportive, and also identify the things that were the opposite of that. Things that made you feel uncomfortable, unsettled, maybe even triggering, or even just the people who tend to stress you out and bring you down. You have a right to set limits around that. You also have a responsibility to your own well-being and healing to do that. When you're around people, especially people who are inappropriate or triggering for you, not only does it bring up difficult feelings for you, but it also is a reinforcement that what you want and need doesn't matter. So learning what those boundaries are and setting those boundaries is an important part of healing. Um, so if it's not possible for you to just not be around certain people, and like I said, I know that that's the case for many people, then you can do some things to limit the engagement that you have. I know for me in my life, this was something that I dealt with for a very long time. When I had to spend time around one of my abusers during the holidays or just kind of in general, nobody in my family knew that this person had abused me. And there are a lot of reasons why I hadn't told, but that's a different video. I'm my abuser for family functions quite often. And in the beginning, honestly, I just didn't feel that I had a choice. The thought of not being around that person never even crossed my mind, so I just did it. But I never really felt comfortable doing it. As I kind of started healing and started understanding things, I had just kind of recognized I wasn't comfortable around this person. And so I would kind of distance myself a little bit, maybe sit on the other side of the table, engage in conversation with other people instead of with him, whatever it was. I just naturally kind of distanced myself a little bit. As I continued to heal, I made a conscious decision that I was going to continue to be around him at family functions because I didn't want to stir the pot, so to speak. I didn't want questions raised. It was just easier because I had already been doing it my entire life. So I made a conscious decision that I would continue to be around this person, but I was much more conscious during my time around him of how I was feeling. And so when I, first of all, even just knowing I was going to be around him, I would do some self-care things. I would take care of myself. I would make sure I was connected. I would make a conscious effort to not only not be around him or engage, but also um, make sure I made connections ahead of time so I was feeling safe and confident. Um, but if I found myself around him in a conversation that was not as easy to distance myself from, if I felt uncomfortable for any reason, I would remove myself from the situation, whether that meant going to the bathroom or just going and engaging with somebody else, whatever it was, I would remove myself from the situation and try to just engage somewhere else. And then afterwards, so after all was said and done, I would make sure that I took time to take care of myself and really connected with someone or people who I knew supported me. They didn't necessarily have to know about the abuse, but just who I knew I could feel safe and supported around. So that's just an example. But in terms of setting your own boundaries around that, maybe limiting the amount of time that you're going to be there. You know, I know sometimes parents can be difficult. Maybe they remind you of all of your faults and disappointments. Maybe they just ask you a lot of inappropriate questions. Maybe they're just not very healthy and not fun to be around. Deciding to limit your time around them ahead of time can be a great way to do that. Maybe you set up something that you're going to do afterwards. So you know, and you can even let them know, hey, I'm going to come over and I'm looking forward to spending that time with you, but I have to leave by this time because I have something else going on. However you want to do that, it's okay to do that. And I know sometimes we just need permission to do that, to set those boundaries, to take care of ourselves. So, you know, who am I to do this? But I am giving you permission. Like I said, you have a right and a responsibility to yourself to set those limits. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you are one of the very fortunate and lucky people who have tons of people that you can spend time with, who have a really supportive and loving and healthy family. And if that's the case, good for you. And I hope that's one of the things that you are grateful for on Gratitude Monday. Um, but if you're not, I hope this has been helpful. And please know you are not alone. This is a difficult time of year for me for some of the obvious reasons. I'm at a time in my life now where, because we're traveling so much, that there's not a lot of people around that I spend time with. But most significantly, I think for me, somebody very close to me died on Christmas Day, and so this time of many, many, many years ago. But this time of year is always a reminder of that loss. So know that you're not alone. This time of year can be difficult for people for a lot of different reasons. So you're not alone. You have a right and a responsibility and permission to set some boundaries and limits for yourself this time of year, any time of year really. So take care, however you're spending this holiday season. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you experience peace, joy, and connection in whatever way you can, whatever way that means to you. Thanks for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.